Hi, I'm Christine. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with all of my favorite reads for January through March of 2024. All right, so it's now April, and for this year, for 2024, I wanted to do these kind of quarterly check-ins or recaps, reviews, talk about all of my 5-star reads that I've had for each quarter of the year. So now that it's April, I'm going to talk about January, February, and March of 2024, chat about all of my 5-star reads that I've had for the year so far, as well as like where I'm at in my reading goal, kind of all of those things. All right, so for January, February, and March, I have read 125 books so far for the year. My reading goal is always set at 500 on Goodreads, so that's just a number that I just set it as because I know I'm going to meet that. And I do exceed that number as well. So like that's just a number that I set at that I know I'm going to meet. So anyways, that's just what I do. So far for January, February, and March, I've had 14 5-star reads. In this video, I'm only going to talk about the 5-star reads. So like none of them that I gave 4.5 stars to or rounded up or anything like that. Like these are just the true 5-star reads that I've had. And I'm also not going to include any of the rereads that I've done, even though some of those have been 5 stars. Like those were already 5 stars the first time I read them. So I'm not going to include any of those in here, even though I do love to reread favorite books throughout the year. All right, so for January, I read 52 books for the month, and I had 9 5-star reads, and we will talk about what happened after this month because I started off the year strong, and we'll see where it went from there. So let's talk about my January reads, and I'm just going to talk about these in order of when I read them and when I gave them 5 stars. So my first 5-star read of the year was Misladen Parts Half Known by Seanan McGuire. This is book 9 in the Wayward Children series. I absolutely love this series so much, so good. It has like fantasy portal. It's also kind of middle grade, kind of young adult. Also has like some bigger themes going on as well, as far as like identity and finding your place in the world, acceptance and self-love, and just all of these things mashed up into these worlds. They do get pretty dark as well, so just know that going in. Basically, it's better if you read the series in order because they all kind of build upon one another. Especially this book, it builds upon the past 2 books in the series. So like I said, the whole series is kind of like this portal fantasy series where there is the kind of real world as far as like this children's home where all these children live, as well as their portal worlds that exist, and like every portal world is perfect for each person. And so there's like all sorts of like fantastical elements. Some of them are very dark. Some of them are more happy and friendly and things like that. And so in this one, we kind of learn more about how the portals work and all of that with a specific character. And we get to explore some different portals, ones we've been to, ones we haven't been to. And so it kind of goes from there. Like I said, they all build up on one another. I highly recommend this series. It is just so good. One of my favorite series of all time. The audiobooks are especially amazing. They're very short. They're like novella length, and they're just like so good. Obsessed with the series. All right, and then my next 5-star read of the year was another novella. This one's a horror novella. So this is Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. This one, so good. I recommend not going in knowing much about this book and just kind of enjoying the ride and seeing where the story takes you. In very basic terms, it basically follows a man and a woman in a marriage and a relationship, and you kind of see the complexities of their relationship and the world around them and their neighborhood that they live in and kind of their neighbors and all of that. It has this very like, I don't know, kind of creepy, kind of like undertone to it to where like you can feel uncomfortable and feel like things are weird, but like the characters don't seem to notice. And so, it's just so good. Highly recommend. I think it's like barely 100 pages, a novella, horror. So good, highly recommend. All right, and then the next 2 are novellas by Ruby Dixon, and so they're both part of this Risdiverse Tales kind of bind-up. So this bind-up has 4 novellas in it, and these are going to be 2 of the books I'm going to be talking about are in here, which I don't believe they're sold separately, like you have to buy them as part of a bind-up for a physical copy. So the first one is The Alien's Mail Order Bride. I'll put up its own kind of cover here. You can read it on Kindle Unlimited, but I did them all in audio. They're all on Hoopla, and I absolutely loved them. So in this one, the hero is kind of this ex-intergalactic soldier who he has just taken up and lives on this farming planet now. And so he's had some injuries over the years and he needs help on his farm. So he decides to request a mail order bride. And so the heroine shows up. He thinks she's an alien from like this strong planet where she can come and help with his farm. And she shows up and she's actually a human in disguise. And so it kind of goes from there where at first he's like, this isn't what I ordered. You're not going to be able to help me. Like we need to like get you out of here and get you somewhere else because I need somebody like strong here to help me. And so over time though, when he's trying to help her like meet somebody else, he's feeling like he's actually pulled to her, and it's just so good and so fun. I loved how he's like very protective over her. Like Ruby Dixon's alien sci-fi romances, they just always hit for me and are a good time. All right, so then the next one is When She's Bold, again by Ruby Dixon and part of this Risdiverse Tales kind of novella bind-up. So this one is so fun and so good. Again, we're on that farming planet, and in here the heroine is plus size. She loves to bake, she loves to cook, and she's been kind of hinting to the hero that she's interested in him, but he's like not getting the hint. So she decides to be bold, as the title suggests, and just go for it and kind of tell him all her feelings. It has mutual pining. It's just just so good and so sweet. I love their connection of how they both love food and baking. It's just so good and so sweet and so wholesome. Like on a planet in space. Loved it so much. Highly recommend the Riververse series if you haven't picked it up yet. All right, my next 5-star read of January was Twilight of Embers by Tessa Hale. This is the first book in her new Dragons of Ember Hollow series. Absolutely obsessed with this series so much. I'm actually about to start book 2 like tonight, and I cannot wait. The audio ALC just came in on my phone earlier today in my email, and I cannot wait to start it. But anyway, so this is the first book. Highly recommend. This is Dragon Shifters. It's White Choose. It's paranormal. It's just so good. If you're not a fan of White Choose or you don't think White Choose is going to be for you, I highly recommend you pick up this series anyways and give it a try. This book in particular will like sell you on White Choose, I feel like, and it's just so good. Basically in here we follow the heroine, and she is like at this college, and she just thinks she's like a regular human. She doesn't think there's anything else going on in her life, so she's slowly kind of figuring out that there's like a little bit more to her than she thought. Along the way, she ends up meeting the 5 heroes in here, and they all kind of like sense and know things about her and kind of like help her see that as well. I love in here how all of the heroes are so unique and so different. We have a broody, kind of tortured heroes. We have more of a golden retriever hero. One of the heroes is a professor at the college, so we have like a little bit of a forbidden element. Just so good. I love how all of these heroes bring something different to the table and to the heroine. So good. Dragon Shifters too, like, ugh, so good. Highly recommend. I love this book so much. Next up, we have Loving Romeo by Laura Pavlov. This is the first book in her Magnolia Falls series, and I really enjoyed this one. This one is a small town romance, and we have a little bit of like hate to love as well. Basically in here, the hero, he owns a gym. He's a former boxer who is now retired and just kind of like living day to day, just doing his gym thing, and that's all he wants to do. The heroine is actually from like kind of the like founding family, or like her family is like super influential. They own a lot of real estate around town, kind of like that type of family. And so the hero actually hates her family for reasons, and so the heroine's back in town, and she ends up opening a coffee shop right next door to the hero's gym. And so they have this like animosity, or he has this animosity towards her when the story starts, because he just thinks of her as like the town princess. He can't stand her family, but then he ends up becoming like protective over her and having to help her out one night, and things just kind of slowly evolve from there. I really enjoyed this one. A great start to this small town series. I really love the hero and his friend group as well, which all of his friends are the ones who are getting books in the series. Just such a good start to the series. If you love small town, want to start somewhere with Laura Pavlov, this is a great place to start because, like I said, it's her newest series. Next up is In Want of a Viscount by Lorraine Heath. This is the 3rd book in her Chessmen Masters of Seduction series. Lorraine Heath, if you know around here, she's my historical romance queen. I love her books so much. Lorraine Heath is known for kind of her more wild, bonkers times, but this one's more like romantic and sweet and just kind of slow burn, which I really appreciated. In this one, the heroine is an American, and she's kind of like this inventor or engineer, and she's in London to find investors for her family's new like invention that she's working on, which is going to be a typewriter. And so she's there to kind of find investors, and so she ends up meeting the hero and his group of friends because they are business investors. And when she meets the hero, she realizes that she already met him the previous night at this kind of like women's only club where they shared a kiss. So it goes from there. We learn a ton about both the hero and the heroine's family life and how that has kind of formed and shaped them into the people that they are today. If you read her Sins for All Seasons series, the first book in that one, the hero is connected to that story, so you learn more about his family there as well. I kind of highly recommend reading Lorraine Heath's books in order as far as like her series and stuff, because they all build upon one another. Not to say you can't enjoy them on their own, but like it will just mean more if you know more of the history and the families and the characters and all of those things. Highly recommend this one. It's so good. I love how the heroine in here has kind of always been looked at as kind of strange and different, and people don't understand her, but the hero like totally gets her love language. Like he takes her to places to kind of see how things work, figure out how the clock tower works, kind of all of those like engineering things. Just really enjoyed this one. Another favorite of January is Ashes of You by Catherine Cowles. This is the 5th and final book in her Lost and Found series. I love this whole series so much. This book in particular is probably my 2nd favorite in the series after Echoes of You. Loved it so much. In this one we have a single dad and a nanny heroine. It also has like protective vibes, and the hero and the heroine have this like connection that they've known one another for years for reasons that you find out when the story starts and kind of picks up. Basically in here she ends up becoming the nanny for the hero and his 3 sons, and so I just loved the family element in here. The hero's 3 sons, they were so funny, they were so cute, they were so charming, they were adorable. I also loved her connection with them, and then just kind of seeing the heroine's connection with the hero. The heroine in here, because of kind of trauma and some things that happened in her past, she's coming into this relationship kind of slower as well, and I just liked seeing the time that the story takes and how their romance evolves. It's just so good, so slow burn, so amazing. I love this book so much. All right, and then my last 5-star read for January was House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. I am obsessed with the series, obsessed with this book. This is the 3rd book in her Crescent City series, which is a fantasy romance, kind of like urban fantasy setting. I love everything that this author writes, and so to say that I love this book is just like an understatement. I loved it so much. I've already reread it, tabbed it all up. It's like one of my favorite things ever. Love this book so much. I've read it twice this year already, and like I said, I'm just obsessed. Can't really say too much much because it exists in her Crescent City series. It's the third book, so we're following kind of the same story throughout. Just highly recommend. This is one of those books that I can't really say much about unless you've also read all of her books and have read this book and want to talk about it. Then I could talk about it all day long. But yeah, definitely one of my favorites of the year. I love this book just so much. It just means everything to me. Obsessed. So those were my 9 5-star reads that I had for January. So now let's jump into February. So for February, I read 32 books for the month and I had 4 5-star reads. So first up is Serpentine Valentine by Gianna Darling. I absolutely loved this book. This is a special edition cover that Hello Lovely did for their Trope of the Month box. This is a dark romance. It is a Medusa retelling. It is Gianna's first sapphic romance. It was just everything I wanted from it and more. If you love Gianna's like very lush descriptive writing, this book's definitely gonna work for you. It has all of those elements in this story. It also has like very darker themes as well, so just know that going in. It has like a revenge plot that's happening. I love this book so much. This also has like very like dark academia vibes, and like I said, it takes place at a university where one of the heroines, she actually ends up getting attacked and assaulted in the beginning of the book, which there are content warnings, so just know that going in, which Gianna does a good job of having all the content warnings ahead of time, so if you need those, definitely check it out. So it goes from there of the heroine, like I said, being assaulted and attacked on the campus, and it kind of gets into her being blamed and victim blamed, or people not believing her story, or kind of all of those things. And so she decides that she's going to have it out for the school and wants to get back at them, and who better than to set her revenge plot on than by getting with the school president's daughter, which is the other heroine. And yeah, just so good. I love their connection, but I also just loved the overall kind of theme and story of this, of these women kind of getting their revenge back on these people who are not believing their stories, who are victim blaming them, kind of all of those things. Darker themes, but like so good. All right, and then my next 5-star read for February is Where We Belong by Ashley Munoz. This is the second book in her Stone Writers MC series. I absolutely love this one. If you love like a very like angsty, kind of tortured, broody hero, the hero in this one is definitely that. Definitely one of those heroes who doesn't believe in love or love for him and doesn't think he wants anybody close to him, doesn't want to risk the chance of them getting hurt and him losing them. So this one does have a hate to love vibe as well, where the hero and the heroine, they kind of meet. They're from very like opposite worlds, which you learn more about the heroine's kind of backstory in this series, in this book. And so she kind of moved to the town with her best friend, who was the heroine of book 1. And so you already see kind of her and the hero meet in that book. And so this book is more of their story. You can read this as a standalone, but you'll get like a better appreciation for the world and for this couple if you read the first book first. So I kind of recommend both. They're both so good. This one just really worked for me. I love the forced proximity. The hero is the MC Club president, and there's this like forced proximity with them having to live together, and just so good. I love the tension and the angst of him like not wanting to give in because he doesn't want to get close with her or have anybody like close to him that people can then hurt him by hurting that person, and it's just so good. The angst attention. I love this one so much. All right, and then my last 2 5-star reads, both from Amber V. Nicole. So this is the Book of Azrael. This is a special edition that the Bookish Box did. So this is the first book in her Is It Gods and Monsters series, I want to say. This book is just so good. I was obsessed with it. It's a fantasy romance, like high fantasy with like this immense world building. Kind of exists where we're following like celestials and gods and monsters and a little bit of humans. It's just so good. I was obsessed. Very slow burn and drawn out, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I'm absolutely obsessed. I love very like morally gray characters, and the hero and the heroine are both kind of that. All the characters we follow are kind of that in this series. Just so good. The like viciousness and the violence that we get from the heroine, from this couple, from the series in general, so good and just delivers. I was obsessed with this whole thing and couldn't get enough of it. So yeah, the Book of Azrael, love it so much. And then my last 5-star was The Throne of Broken Gods, which like I said, this is the second book that kind of follows up the Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. Love this one so much. Can't say too much because it literally follows up from where book 1 left off. So I don't want to say too much to give anything away. But like if you loved the violence and the revenge, we follow this very much villainous heroine, which I was obsessed with. Loved everything in here. Loved the tension and the romance, and it's kind of drawn out. And it's just so good. I love it so much. And I can't wait to see where the rest of the series goes from here. So those were my 5-star reads for February, and then we're gonna jump into March. So for March, I read 41 books and I had 1 5-star read. Like I said at the beginning, how January started off so strong, and then from there, like my 5-star reads have just gone downhill. So here's hoping the rest of the year starts to pick up, because I'm kind of losing hope here, not gonna lie. So my 1 5-star read for March was The Women by Kristen Hanna. I have a physical copy, but my parents are actually borrowing it right now, so it is not here, so we're just gonna put the cover up here for you to see. This one is just so good. I love Kristen Hanna's books. I've loved so many of her historical fictions, and this one was just another slam dunk for me. This one we basically follow women, as the title suggests, or a specific woman in particular, and we follow her story. This takes place during the Vietnam War, and it very much showcases women who went to war during that time, all the things that they were lied to about, they found out, that they kind of suffered and went through, and seeing them kind of come back home and then not only deal with all the like PTSD and the trauma that they had, but they also don't get any support or recognition or anything like that for what they were involved with as well. And it's just so good. We follow the one heroine in particular, like I said, but we kind of see other people's stories as well. Has a lot of ups and downs. It's just so good. Like very emotional, traumatic things happen, but then a lot of hopefulness as well. It's just so good. Like nobody writes historical fictions quite like Kristen Hanna. I just love her books so much. So yeah, my only 5-star read for March. All right, so that is my recap for the first quarter of 2024. Like I said, I read 125 books so far, 14 5-star reads, and I hope that I have more 5-star reads coming for the rest of the year. I kind of started to give up hope there, thinking that I've read all the good books out there. So I'm hoping that there's still some good books left to read. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of the books that I talked about. If you plan to pick any of them up, I would absolutely love it if you did, because like I said, these books are so good. If you want to share some of your 5-star reads for the first quarter of the year, definitely let me know in the comments. I'm always down for some more book recs and to pick up some amazing books. Of course, if you want to see more of my thoughts or my full reviews on any of the books that I talked about in this video or any of my reads for the year, I do review every book that I read on Goodreads. You can always get to that through the links in the description of this video. If you'd rather leave me an emoji instead to let me know that you watched this video, maybe leave me a dragon, since I have my book dragon sweatshirt on today from Hello Lovely. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, and I will see you in my next one.